All right, we'll get started here. We'd like to welcome world number one Scottie Scheffler into the interview room here at the Genesis Scottish Open. Scottie, your third start here in this event. If we could just get an opening comment from you on being back in Scotland.
Yeah, good to be back in Scotland. Third start here, so I like coming here and playing this event. It's a fun tournament for me to play. It's good prep for next week. I like coming over, getting used to the temperature, time change, food, all different kinds of stuff, golf. So good to be back.
Obviously on a great run of form right now. How do you keep that momentum going this season or the rest of the season and, as we look ahead to the FedEx Cup playoffs?
Yeah, I've played solid golf this year. I'm very proud of that. As far as going into the rest of the season, I treat every week the same, and so showing up here with a good attitude, ready to play. I did take a good bit of time off after the Travelers. I was pretty tired when we got back home, so my prep for this week may not be as strong as it usually would be, but the rest for me was definitely the most important factor coming into this week and next week.
All right, we'll take some questions out here. If you have a question, we'll get a microphone to you. Questions? Bob on the left.
What's your views on links golf? What was your first experience with it, and how has it evolved for you? Did you like it from the beginning? Did you not? Did you have to get used to it?
I think that I liked it from the beginning. It's fun to play. I like the ability to have to hit all different kinds of shots. I like the way it is around the greens, how you can use any type of club. I think it's more of the way golf was designed to be played, and coming over here and getting to do it, for a few weeks a year is definitely very fun. And so, yeah, I love it.
Do you remember your first time?
Yeah, I was here 2 years ago. It was the first time with links golf.
Martin?
When you went out on Monday, you and Ted, just on your own, what sort of you looking to get out that first sort of few holes back playing links golf again?
Just trying to stay awake. Yeah, I really was. Monday was we got in kind of mid-morning, and my body didn't really feel 100%, obviously, with not really getting much sleep and flying overnight. And so we were just trying to get out, get a feel for the place, stay awake, so I get adjusted to the time change, kind of get used to the jet lag, and yeah, just kind of go out and play a little bit.
You had a rare missed cut here last year. I mean, was that just a blip? I mean, what did you know that week? What do you look back on that week that you can maybe learn from?
That's a good question. I just, had an off week here last year on a golf course that I like, so that was a bit strange, but I think there's always something to kind of take away from, and I feel like every time I've missed a cut on tour, I've done something wrong mentally. I've made a couple mental errors, and I definitely made a few of those last year, and so I'm always trying to refine my approach and approach everything with a good attitude and just be very committed to what I'm doing out there.
Go to Doug on the left.
What are you pleased with about this year, and what are you not satisfied with?
Golf-wise? I would say golf-wise, I'm very proud of how I've been so consistent. It's definitely the most consistent golf that I've played, and I think I've played the most consistent golf out of anybody this year, which I'm definitely proud of. I would have obviously liked to win more, but if I win 8 times, I'm going to want to win 9. And if I win 9, I'm going to want to win 10. And golf's one of those games that you're just never really satisfied. And that's kind of like life too. You're never really satisfied with the results of things, and you always want more, I think. But I'm definitely very proud of how I've played so far this year.
It's a remarkable streak, but are you saying you're not satisfied because you haven't won every tournament? I'm not following you there. What?
I would say that, yeah, I want to win every time I tee it up, and I think that's kind of how the heart is. You win once, and then you want to win twice. And it's funny, when you're a kid, you think if you win once on the PGA Tour that you'd be satisfied, and then you win once, you're like, oh, that was pretty fun. I want to win again, and then the cycle continues.
And then secondly, how would you describe your interest level in yesterday's Senate hearing? And as a player on the PGA Tour, is there anything that you are concerned or should be concerned about going forward?
I just think that yesterday we didn't really learn a whole lot again. As a player on tour, we still don't really have a lot of clarity as to what's going on, and that's a bit worrisome. As they keep saying it's a player-run organization, and we don't really have the information that we need to kind of. I don't even know how to comment. I watched part of yesterday, and I didn't learn anything. So I really don't know what to say.
What was your takeaway from yesterday?
I don't know. Again, it really is kind of that cycle where it's just a framework agreement right now, and so I don't know what that entails. We're not involved in any of the discussions. You know, none of the players were involved in the original framework agreement, and so we just don't really. Should I have been? Probably not, but I'm sure that a few of our player directors probably should have been involved.
Ian?
Scotty, just following on from that, just how disconcerting is the overall uncertainty around the game at the moment for you?
Well, for me, I try to just keep my head down and play golf. I don't get too involved in a lot of that stuff. You know, I love playing golf on the PGA Tour, and that's the spot for me. I'm hoping that's going to exist for a long time, and I felt like we were doing a good job before, and then the agreement happened, and now we got to navigate this whole deal. And I think the tour is working hard to try to get us more information, but like they said, it's tough when you're in negotiations to make everything public. It's hard to negotiate in public, so I understand the privacy of it, but I just wish that definitely our player directors need to be more involved in the process.
Phil, on the right.
Scotty, over this way.
Over here.
Sorry. Are you surprised that we've got this far into a press conference and nobody's asked you about your putting yet?
You know, my press conferences it always surprises me. Sometimes I'm going to feel like I'm going to get asked a lot of live golf questions and they never come. And this time those questions came a little bit earlier. So thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
How would you describe your putting at the moment? Are you happy with it? Are you still working hard on it? What's the state of it at the moment?
I would say that every aspect of my game is the same thing when it comes to coming out here and playing. I'm never satisfied with the results. You know, if you win the Masters by 3, I want to win by 4, and I want to win by 5. And I'm never really satisfied with the results of the game. And I'm always working to try and get better. And it's a tough balance between, I would say, overworking and focusing too much on results versus just putting the work in and then showing up with a good attitude and just trying to do your best. And so that's the balance that I'm always trying to find.
John Rahm got pretty frustrated with us when we kept asking him about his putting a while back. Are you at that stage yet, or is it not bothering you?
Funny enough, I talked to John about that. We played together at Memorial this year, and we both putted pretty bad that week. And so we were obviously both out there practicing after the round, and I got to talk to him a little bit about that. And I think that it's all just perception. I'm not going to let what you guys think of my golf game affect how I think of my golf game, and I believe that I'm a very good putter, and everything kind of returns to the average. And if you're hitting the ball as good as I have been in the past year, it's very, very difficult to make all the putts. I don't really get to choose what kind of putts I have. I typically play later in the day. I've been on the top of the leaderboards for a long time, and so as far as my golf game goes, I feel like the things that I'm working on to improve have been working significantly. As my putting struggles have continued in y'all's minds, I've gotten back to number 1 in the world, and I've had a bunch of top 5 finishes. Granted, if I could make a few more putts, those would have been wins, but at the end of the day, I'm proud of how I've approached tournaments this year and played solid golf, and that's what I'm focused on.
Go over here to Alex.
Yeah, understanding that you're a professional golfer, that's what you're focusing on. We actually are focusing on other things as well. And so is there a point where the frustration that you're feeling over what's going on with the negotiations or live or whatever would get to a point where you might want to do something other than just be frustrated?
I think that right now what we're focused on is improving our tour, and I think the players have all really stuck together, and that's what's important to me. And what goes on behind the scenes is stuff that I don't share out here. It's not for y'all's knowledge, it's for the players. And I believe that the players are working together right now, which is exciting for me.
Doug, and then Martin.
Just on those lines, Scotty, is there any part of you that thinks that meeting last year in Delaware is now a waste of time?
I don't think so at all. I think when the merger announcement came out, it may have felt like a bit of a waste of time. But at the end of the day, I think it was good to get everybody in a room together. And I think that we are banded together as players. I mean, I think you saw the article that came out on Patrick a few weeks ago, and then a lot of guys were posting on their social media and stuff like that just because it was, a ridiculous article. And that's what I appreciate as a player, is having my voice heard and then being able to come to a consensus with all the players and kind of go from there. And that's what we're working towards right now, is to try and get a consensus. And I mean, we're a player-run organization, and so we're doing our best as players to make it feel that way.
Martin.
Scotty, along with lots of others, you've got one eye on next week. What do you look for from a weather perspective over the next 4 days here? Is it a bit of everything just to get you ready for next week?
Yeah, I mean, you probably know a little bit more about the weather over here than I do, but it seems to change pretty rapidly. So far this week we've had a decent bit of wind. We've had a little bit of rain so far as prep, and who knows what will happen as the week goes on. I think I did see Sunday we were supposed to get some pretty heavy wind, but I think, like you said, a good bit of everything would be nice prep for next week.
We're going to go to Fatia over here on the right in the third row.
Sergio Garcia told us a few weeks ago that the merge and this announcement made some good relationships between the players. Speaking about Rory, that he gained friend back. Do you feel this?
So when all those guys left, I didn't have any hard feelings for anybody. If they wanted to go take the money and go over there and play, that's their decision. It's not my business to get into their business, if that makes sense. And as people, I didn't think of them any differently. They just play golf on a different tour. It doesn't mean that they're different people than they were a year ago. And as far as my thoughts go, no relationships were harmed. I'm still friends with the guys that I was friends with before, and some of them are on LIV and some of them are on the PGA Tour. It is a bit weird that I still don't get to see them all throughout the year besides a handful of tournaments, but none of my relationships over there were really fractured by them going to play on a different tour.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go to Bob on the left.
Scotty, you mentioned the communication. Does that mean that after the board meeting at the Rocket Mortgage that the player reps actually reached out to the players to inform them? And do they ask for your opinion? Do they ask for your feedback in any way?
Yeah, and I think that's becoming more of a habit with tour officials as well as the player directors. And that's what's important to me as being a member of the PGA Tour is that our voice is heard, but I feel like our voice is, I mean, it's just kind of how the system goes. We have a player advisory council, and then we have the player directors. And as long as the player directors' voices are being heard, we're the ones that voted them into that position to be there, and we want their voices to be heard. And that was really the only frustration with the original announcement, is that none of those 4 or 5 guys were involved at all. But as far as things are going now, there's open lines of communication. I mean, I've had numerous discussions with tour officials and players as the weeks have gone on with all this stuff, and I feel like we're headed in the right direction.
We'll finish up with Doug and then Alex.
Who's your favorite senator in the hearing?
I'm not going to answer that.
I'm going to give you a break, Scott. I'm going to hit a quick golf, if you don't mind. Think back to you as a kid at Royal Oaks and all the chipping contests and stuff you had fun with creativity-wise. How did that kind of manifest itself when you first got to Royal St. George's for links golf in terms of creating and how your mind worked?
Yeah, I think that's always been kind of the fun part of golf. I always learned a lot by watching guys, and so when I grew up at Royal Oaks, I grew up watching the professionals practice and play, and I learned how to hit all different kinds of shots. And I'd watch Justin Leonard practice, and he'd do it a certain way. Then I'd watch Colton Oast, and then I'd watch Harrison Frazier, and then I watched Chris Cox. I mean, there were so many people there that I was able to learn from just because they were kind enough to let me sit there and watch them. I'm sure I was pretty annoying at 8 years old or whatever it was, but they were kind enough to let me hang around. And so when I do come over here and play links golf, there's a lot of opportunity to just try new things and hit all different kinds of shots. And especially when you get around the greens. I mean, when you're into the wind, you can hit huge flops and long bump and runs with a 7-iron, and you can kind of it really does sometimes feel like you're playing golf like you're a kid again, just because Teddy can give me a number, but it doesn't really matter. I got to hit the shot. And at home, if we got 150 into a 10-mile-an-hour wind, the ball reacts a certain way. When you're over here, there's a lot more factors that you have to kind of dive into, and I'm not really a huge numbers guy. I do most of my stuff by feel, and so when you get 150 and you're into the wind and the lie's sitting down and you're on this new type of grass where the ball spins a little bit more and the wind's heavier here, it also makes the ball go shorter, and everything changes so much that you really have to kind of rely on your own feel.
And we'll finish up with Alex.
Colton Oast, huh?
Yeah, I hate giving him that much credit.
Exactly. One last thing. There's the players on the board, and then there's the non-player, obviously. And Randall Stevenson was on the board and left. Did it bother you with his statements about his concerns about this deal?
I did not actually see his statements. It was a little bit concerning that someone like him would leave our board. We have player directors, then we have the other people that are on that advisory board that are very important to our tour. And anytime we lose one of those members is definitely a bit concerning. Those guys were put in a position for a reason, and for any of them to leave is tough for us. And so we'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you, Scottie, for your time, and best of luck this week.
Thanks, y'all.
To watch another DP World Tour video, click here, and to subscribe, click here.